Welcome to the Dream Big Summit. Today, creating a better life for yourself and for the planet. I am here with Jayashree from India, a woman who has been behind a movement of conscious parenting, as well as establishing a school in India around Bangalore. And it's an alternative school, Pragaya. I just wanted to make sure I got it. It's a living wisdom center where she has all sorts of grades, accredited schooling, where children go and really have a different type of learning experience. And I wanted to include this today to find out, how do they teach? What do they focus on? Because they don't have quite the same restrictions in India as we have here in the West. And then in the second segment, I'm going to ask her all sorts of questions about conscious parenting, because she herself is a mom of teenage kids that I personally met, with whom I was so impressed. I mean, super impressed by, as well as the school that she runs with her husband, and of course a body of team teachers. So we are going to glean a lot of information about bringing spiritual education to children, and how you do that, how you get that combined with curriculum, how they grow into independent adults, and all this wisdom. As I've already had Birgit Bade on this talk show, the Dream Big Summit, with her book, Power Tools for Power Kids. And that kind of new coming generation is being parented and taught by an already awake generation like Jayashree here in India with us. Jayashree, thank you very much for being here. You, before you came to this school, you were in Microsoft. You worked in America. You were in the corporate world. You made the big time. You had already graduated in cum laude and been coming to America. Tell us a little bit about your journey from having been in the left brain corporate world to coming to bridging and building an alternative school dedicated to spiritual values, and how you came from what you did to the new vocation of yours. Thank you, Jayashree, for joining us here out of India tonight.
Thank you, Ilona, for having me. It's just so wonderful to be able to share. I just know that my journey is similar to what many parents are thinking about. So I hope some of our experiences will help your audience, and just happy to answer and share whatever our journey has been. Yes, I was in corporate America working for Microsoft. I was one of the few women engineers on Microsoft networks when it first began. And around the same time, I also happened to start a nonprofit to help set up schools in India, in the villages in India, as a way of giving back. And it was just, my husband Ashok and me just thought, okay, we are now, education has helped us. Let's now make that accessible to children who don't have that in India. And yeah, it just started as we never dreamt it would bring me to Creative School and Pragya Center back in India. When we started, it was just a way of giving back. But sometimes you start by giving and then it transforms you. Yes. That's sort of what happened to both of us. And, our giving just transformed our own lives. And that's what happened.
I get chills running up and down my arm, my body. Seva is what you call it in India. And I want to get back to that word, the service, giving, because as you did, you worked in corporate America and you said, look, with the money we're making here, we could give back to the roots of what really matters, which is education. And I adore that in you, and I would hope all of our listeners do something and choose to starting to do something that gives back to the world and make it a little bit of a paying forward kind of movement. So tell me about your school, about the Creative Center, what you have created and the inspiration behind it. You came back, you left corporate America. How and why and what then?
Yeah, so we started this nonprofit which was called Asha, which is basically means hope. And what happened was it put me in touch with amazing educators, people who were viewing education very differently, very holistically. And it's through them that I came in contact with Sri Aurobindo and the Mother's works on education.
Okay, Aurobindo, who is well known for...
Yes, for his work on integral education. So
In Auroville in India, where they
yes,
built an
exactly.
entire town that lives probably is one of the most alternative places where people live guided by higher principles, a spiritual life together
Yes,
in community.
yes,
Hmm.
correct. And when I first visited Auroville, and my friends in Auroville kept urging me, you're doing such wonderful work. You should just tune into the mother's energy. You should just tune into Aurobindo's energy. When I first heard it way back in 1997, I wasn't quite ready. But
Hmm.
I guess, going to a space like that starts its own process. And pretty soon I found myself more interested in the work with children and in holistic education than in my corporate life in America. It just filled my heart. It
Ah,
just gave me something that I felt, inspired by.
yeah.
And my husband and I, took a joint decision, and he just said, he's been my greatest supporter. And he just said, do what makes you happy. I think that was a very important turning point in my life, from, doing what brings in just money and fame and, and status, to do what makes you happy.
Right.
And yeah, and that's it. And that started a journey. I've never looked back. I've never missed the corporate life, but it taught me a lot. The corporate life taught me structure. It taught me not just the intuitive, beautiful, flowering side, but also how to bring in a certain structure, a certain focus, and a certain integrity to the work. I think the marriage of both following the heart and, working with children, with inspiring masters like Sri Aurobindo, the mother, and then later I met my guru, Dr. Newton, and I've had wonderful, wonderful spiritual teachers who I have trained under. And through all of this, the vision for Creative School came way back in 2009. It was
Okay.
through meditation. Yeah, see, I quit Microsoft in 1999 and then started training with different spiritual practices and tools to bring in more consciousness, because I was very interested in peace education.
Okay.
How do we empower? How do we connect to a larger source of energy and utilize that in our lives? That's sort of what my early work in the nonprofit had led me to. And as I trained and I was meditating regularly, I had an experience with Sri Aurobindo. And, basically, if I just put it down in simple terms, it was like, okay, you cannot just dream. You cannot just dream big. You must act on it. That's
Yes.
sort of what I got out of it. Yeah.
Beautiful. So it is your dream. You get the inspiration. You get the guidance. You get the mana, the juice, the spirit, and then
Yes.
you, as the arms of God and the eyes of God, act in this world and create something new, something creative, something beautiful.
Absolutely.
Oh,
And the mother, who is Sri Aurobindo's spiritual partner, at that time I remember saying, oh my God, this is such a big dream. Am I even capable? I don't have a guru. I'm not part of an ashram. How can I do work like this?
mhm.
And all I got from her was, your path will emerge, follow.
Beautiful.
And I did. And it did emerge. And my husband just stood by me and said, through all my ups and downs, he just said, no, it's okay. It'll be all right. And it's at that time that I started, yeah, please, you had a question?
No, yes, exactly. So what
Yeah.
did you then do? What was your action? How did you get started?
So what was happening to me was, I was very inspired. There was so much energy in my body. There's something about receiving that much spiritual energy. It just puts you in, you just go into action.
Mhm.
And I realized the mother's
Yes.
guidance was very instrumental for me. I was the mother of two children, and the single guidance from her that probably became such a foundation for Creative School and our healing center, which is Pragya, is that a parent needs to be who they want their children to be. All
Yes.
parents, we want the best for our children, but the mother just put it very simply. She said, if you want the best for the children, you need to have the best for yourself, for
And you need to
you.
be the one that is the best.
Yeah,
I mean, really, we
yeah,
dream
you
and
need to just be
project
that.
onto our children, right? But what is it we
Yes,
really want? I mean, ultimately, you only take yourself home, right?
yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
you have to become the living example of what you want
So,
others to
she
follow.
was absolutely. And so you have to be that. And then that became such an inspiration to me. My children, wanting the best for my children became an inspiration, a catalyst into wanting the best for me.
Mm,
And I started training spiritually. I really trained and trained and trained. I met Dr. Newton at that time.
yeah.
A lot of his work truly helped me cleanse my past. There were a lot of triggers from my past which were stopping me
Yeah.
from blossoming into my highest. And with Dr. Newton's guidance and presence in my life, I could clean out a lot of that.
So
And
the techniques he used are like past life regression,
yes,
meditate. Well, tell me about a couple of the techniques that you use to clean up your
yes,
past, because I think that's a very important aspect of being spiritual. It's not just like being quiet and going, oh, mani padme hum. It's like doing the cleansing and then having a vision, like going horizontal in our purification and having a vision.
yes.
So tell us a little bit about the techniques you use to purify your own subconscious and
Yes,
past.
one of the most profound, forms of healing I went through was actually inner child healing.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to inner child healing, I'd had a lot of amazing meditational experiences, even before I met Dr. Newton.
Mm-hmm.
But what I found was the meditation experience would be there,
Yeah.
but sort of just disappear after a while.
Okay.
But when I cleaned up my past, when I went back to the roots of my childhood, and I could see that my parents played a certain role in my life,
Mm-hmm.
for me to then take on this sole purpose of conscious parenting. And when I could understand that, and I could see all the wonderful things behind what I thought was messed up,
Okay.
that was hugely transformational.
Okay, so you turned through the inner work, you turned what appeared negative into what did it actually want your soul to become, and take that
Absolutely.
into the next step of evolution of your strength.
Absolutely.
Awesome, awesome.
And it also taught me, with Dr. Newton's guidance, I also learned a lot on how to transform fear into love.
Yes.
A lot of parenting, including me as a parent, many times we parent in a way to protect our children from harm. You want them to do this and this and this, so they will be successful.
Yeah.
But we need to understand a lot of those come from our own fears, our own past experiences.
Yes.
And we just tend to protect. There is a fine line. I mean, if you see a truck coming down the street,
Sure.
you have to have grounding fears, right?
Right.
Common sense fears.
Right.
There are common sense fears which come up, and they're just to ground you, to make
Right.
sure that ensure safety
Present here in the physical. Yeah.
So I'm not referring to those.
Yeah.
There is a certain amount, you don't want your child to jump off the roof,
Sure.
or,
Sure.
just because I'm going to choose love over fear. That's not the intention.
Right.
Now, making sure that it's our job as parents to make sure that the environment we raise children in is loving and safe. That is one part. But the second part of it is, many times our failures in life, we project onto our children. And we say, I wasn't successful here, so maybe you won't be too. And we tend to overprotect there.
Yeah.
So I had to take the mother's guidance and Dr. Newton's an enormous amount of training to just go into my past, see where I had failed, learn from the failure, because, I failed because I had to learn certain lessons. And when I did that, I knew there was no failure. It's only, everything is just an experience that we have set up to learn. And when you come into that, you come into a different form of parenting. You realize it's only when we accept our own soul journeys that we can truly accept our children have their own soul journey as well.
Okay, that again gives me chills, is when you realize you are yourself on a soul journey and take that seriously, you can honor your child as being on its own soul journey.
Yes. So, otherwise we tend to mix it up. And it's not something that happens overnight.
No.
So really in our school, the foundation of our school, we call our school a Sangha.
Yes.
The Buddhist term of a Sangha is people practicing together.
Yeah.
And most of our teachers, we have over 40 teachers in school. Most of our teachers are parents who are, whose children are studying in the school as well. And what we do is we bring consciousness into ourselves, because the process of education of our children, of course, it has to be joyful, but it also brings up a lot of parental anxieties and fears as teachers, as parents.
Mm-hmm.
So as a Sangha, we point that, we nudge each other. Hey, just a minute, this is an area maybe you have a fear in. It doesn't mean your child's going to do badly there. Or,
the projection going on. So,
So we help each other become aware of our projections. And really, that is the foundation for our school, a level of consciousness in parenting and in teaching.
So it's not just a school, you have the teachers, you go there, the kid goes and learns. It's more like a community of
Yes.
growing beings, adults that grow
Yes.
together and help each
Absolutely.
other,
Yes.
who then
Yes.
pass on the better part of themselves as a model to their children.
Absolutely. We keep trying to free ourselves, and as we free ourselves, we let our children be. Our children are already free in many ways, but
Freer, they
so
take on what
yeah,
parents,
they
yeah,
do take on, what we project onto them.
yeah,
So we just have to be careful. Our attempt is to reduce the amount of enmeshment. It's difficult work. It's very sustained work. Week after week, we do this. We take time off during the school to
okay.
just say, hey, what went well? Where am I feeling stuck? What are my fears? Are these, reasonable fears for the safety of the child, or are they kind of more,
Project.
somewhere where I have failed? Yeah, projected fears. So
So
we do that.
yeah, okay. So I want to also go back to the couple more techniques you said. Okay, so to just recapitulate what you just said is you go and look and review what worked well and
Yes.
what didn't, and then let's learn and move through the blockages of what didn't.
Yes. And
Powerful.
really, where is our heart blocked, right? I mean, that it comes down to that. Where's my heart blocked from whatever has happened in the past, and how do I undo that block? Yeah.
Right.
So I really have to, it's Dr. Newton who made me shine the light back on the past and look
Ah,
at that. In addition, I was also very lucky to, we had Leonard stay in our school and teach our teachers different methods of spiritual purification, of balancing and rebalancing, different forms of meditation and cleansing using the natural elements. We've had,
well,
other
just
teachers.
let's back up for a moment. Leonard Orr
Yeah.
is known for breath work. He brought breath
Yes.
work to the Western world. Him and Sandra
Yes.
Ray developed the original
Yes.
movement of breath work. And we have two
Mhm.
breathwork teachers and trainers on our summit here because it's, all elements I've worked with, and I'm loving breath work. It can bring so much ecstasy and purification. And if you
Yes.
breathe, you hit one hits
Different.
against one's
Different.
boundaries,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and they have to be forgiven and purified in order to move through. So breath
Yes.
work, it pumps you with energy, right? Oxygen. And
Yes.
then you hit on
Breath work
those.
and absolutely, it's breath work and also spiritual purification. We learned how to use fire and water and conscious creation. Yeah, and Doc Newton's given us a lot of that as well.
Yes.
So, with two such amazing spiritual teachers and the original inspiration from Sri Mother and Aurobindo, or from the Mother and Sri Aurobindo, here we are a group of parents and teachers who practice regularly, and so that's the adult preparation.
Okay.
Yeah, and
And
in
so,
addition,
yeah.
yeah,
And
please.
then, okay, so go ahead and I'll ask you a couple more questions.
In addition, of course, a school is not just about us, our inner work. That's the foundation for it. We have a lot of wonderful processes, we try to keep teaching and learning as joyful as possible and
Okay.
as experiential as possible. Of course, in the West, things are already more experiential. My years of work, nonprofit work, in both Western schools as well as schools in India, have put me in touch with educators who have brought a lot of joy into learning even traditional subjects.
Okay, so
And
are you following a particular method like the Montessori teachings? Did you develop your own techniques? When you say experiential and you say spiritual training, what and how do you train your children? And let me ask you, from grade what to what grade is your school?
it's all the way from preschool
Yeah.
through today we have two children in the 11th grade as well.
Okay.
We have 165 children studying in school today,
Okay.
and it's all the way from preschool.
Into
That's
university status, basically, in India.
almost, yeah.
I mean,
Almost
in a
university
couple of years,
status,
you're
yes.
still building the last few
Yes,
grades. Okay,
yes,
so you
yes.
have the whole stretch of grammar
The whole
school,
stretch.
kindergarten, grammar, and then,
Absolutely,
okay.
absolutely, yeah.
So
And
what's the curriculum like, or how do you make it spiritual? How do you make it creative? How do you teach the children?
okay, so let me answer this. This
Step
is
by
a very
step.
big question. So there's
I
lots in
know.
your question.
Yes.
I could take a whole hour just to answer that. But let me keep it brief. And the curriculum, the actual curriculum, is we have researched and learned the best from many different amazing educators, Maria Montessori, Rudolf Steiner, Rabindranath Tagore, a lot of the people who have brought in arts into education, and a lot of amazing innovators. I mean, these are the well-known names, but we have also met and received from so many wonderful people doing, cutting edge research in mathematics and language teaching and making it more relevant for children, making it more fun and more effective. So we've just been blessed to network and integrate with many different educators. So that's for the curricular part, which is very joyful, and yet there's a rigor to it. It's important to bring in a little bit of rigor as well. So
and you are accredited, right? You're Cambridge accredited?
Yes. Our children take the Cambridge board exams. We're in the process of accreditation.
Yeah.
We are all the way, recognized up to the middle school, and then middle and high school, we're in the process of registering. And currently we have, our children are homeschooled at the higher grades, and they take the Cambridge board exams.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's in terms of the academics. And the curricular aspects. Yeah. For the spiritual foundation, this is the best part. We really tune it into the age of the children. Very young children, a lot of they're already so spiritually aware. It's simple meditations which they can relate to. A lot of, we bring in a lot of emotional intelligence and awareness.
Okay.
Young children, if they're angry or sad, where do you feel this in your body? It's as simple as that.
Yes.
Right? Because we have space for the children. What we've done, the most important part is to create a safe space for the children to be themselves. And yet to have healthy, nurturing limits and boundaries. That's important in a community. Yeah, both go hand in hand. So we really train children in an age-appropriate way with simple meditation. India's, of course, got amazing number of chants, with chanting and meditation and art-based meditation and herb meditation and flowers and, really energy ball meditation at the higher grades. So a lot of these simple meditation techniques with awareness and developing emotional intelligence at the younger grades, that's sort of how it is. And as the children grow older, we go deeper.
Okay. And how, for example, give me one example of how you might do it, like in the teenage years, to take them deeper.
Okay. In the teenage years, let me go a little bit pre-teen and then go into teenage. Because, around 9 or 10, they are much more capable of intellectual understanding than the younger ages. In the younger ages, it's more body awareness. They're more feeling-centric. Okay. So you don't want to give long lectures to a young child. Okay. It doesn't work. So, but as they grow older, they're more aware. And so there we have a lot of emotional intelligence games that we play with them.
Like,
for their
give
own
me one.
Self-awareness. An example may be, just teaching them feelings is not enough. The second part, usually the more difficult part, is for children to acknowledge their feelings, right? There's a point at which they're like, okay, I feel this, but wait a minute, I'm not sure I want to share this with you. Yeah, so we have games where,
self-awareness sets in, the ego is starting to form. Okay.
Yes. So as the ego is starting to form, you'll find in the teenage years, they don't want to share quite as much.
Yes.
So we have to consciously make it safe for them. Early on, they're already so open. Yeah, I feel happy. I feel sad. I feel angry. I don't like what you did. And then a little later, it's like, ooh, wait a minute. Now, who's going to like me if I say this? And who's not going to like me if I don't say that? Right. So in those cases, it goes into more subtle, we still encourage sharing. We keep encouraging children, saying, if you share, you're going to get lighter, you're going to be able to do things. So that's there. But sometimes children do and sometimes they don't. And it's important to respect those boundaries. Right. So we have other methods. We have journaling, we have art therapy, we have other ways in which they can explore themselves. Okay. And those are just integrated into the school. Every week, at least once a week, they have time for self-reflection. On a daily basis, they have reflection time for what is going well, what's not. Good. For a practice of gratitude. The gratitude practice is huge across school. Yeah.
And you know what? I mean, honestly, I have to tell you, this morning I was laying in bed with my husband and we were saying, with all the teachings that I've heard, I heard gratitude is so important decades ago. It's now decades later, I'm going like, it shows up everywhere. Every single person who's made it, who says anything has to be done, the number one exercise is gratitude. Yes. It's off the charts. It dawned on
And
us. It seems so simple, and yet it's so impactful.
absolutely. And we've had children come from mainstream schools sometimes
Yeah,
where all we do with them in the beginning, because they come in with their own bruises,
yeah,
and all we do with them is gratitude. And
really.
we keep acknowledging what is working. And you'd find this child who comes in like this is beginning to look like this in a little
Really?
while. It's
Just with
amazing.
that.
Just with the practice of gratitude.
Okay, so can you do that with a teenager at home? Can we
So I was
integrate
going to
that?
say, so
Mm,
let me talk. Our spiritual practices, one can broadly put, there are some daily practices that we have,
yeah.
daily chanting and meditation and brain gym and journaling and, illustrating what is going on. So that's sort of on a very regular basis.
Yeah.
And then there are the deeper practices when there's conflict. Children still have conflict with each other.
Yeah.
It's part of, a sacred space, a spiritual place is not where everyone is just sitting looking like a Buddha.
Right.
It's very real.
Yes.
Children have, conflicts with each other. So how do you make sense of that conflict?
Mm.
How do you grow from that? That's a very integral part of our spiritual work with children. So they learn how to transform conflict into something that they can grow from, and something that they can actually turn into something positive.
Yes.
Now, many of the children are ready for it, and some children are not, in which case we just have to respect their boundaries and say, okay, when their soul is ready for it, we will honor that. Okay, so that's sort of the broad. What we're finding among adolescents is, we also do give, our teacher student ratio is really good.
Okay.
So many times the teachers also sense when a child is sort of going through something down, and the children find it safe to discuss with the teacher. And we offer sessions for children in school.
Ah.
When they're blocked, when they're going through stuff, this is integrated in our school. So they have a conflict at home and we just do it.
And you
It's
walk
just,
through particular techniques of how to
yes,
resolve and listen to the
yes,
conflict,
absolutely.
give it
Yeah,
feeling. I mean, I've talked about it. Dr. Vern Wolf is here on this team.
yes,
The
yes.
transformational tool that is in my children's book that
Mhm.
actually is debuting in India with the Hindi and English. It's
Yeah,
all about the higher self, the place of peace, the transformation of emotions, and
yes,
making sense
yes,
out of them. So what's your ratio
absolutely.
between conscious teachers and students? How many to how
We
many?
try to keep, so we have, the class teachers, the teachers who stay with the children,
Mm-hmm.
who are very steady. They're like mothers, class
Yeah,
mothers or class fathers. That's 1:10.
10.
So if we
Cool.
have, yeah, we have a maximum of 10 children per teacher because it takes that much
Okay.
to really track. So they are keeping track of the overall for the child. And then we have specialists come in, we have specialists teaching them theater and arts and dance and music
Mm-hmm.
and play work, and, or, someone will come and do an animal communication workshop, or, so we have the specialists, but it's very important to have the anchors, the
Yes.
class pillars. I keep calling them class pillars. Men and women are the ones who really hold the space for the
Yeah.
children.
And
And
yeah,
that combination, yeah,
and it's what they see in their children that also gets
yes,
fostered. Yeah.
absolutely, yes.
Yeah, there are a couple. We're coming on this half hour. I should be quitting right now, but I have a real serious question, and that is, I know India is as much involved in the digital evolution as anybody is around the world. What do you do in the school about the digital development?
So I think media has its place.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our media, digital development has really helped us
Mm-hmm.
in many ways. For example, children with a learning difficulty, or, slow learners, a computer doesn't get bored. A
Mm-hmm.
human can. So we use technology to help us
Okay.
in perfecting something, in repetitive work, and in games. Children respond so well to iPad, or,
Yeah.
there are wonderful programs like Lexia or others where, the children go through their curriculum in more child-friendly ways. So
Okay.
that's one part of it. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's very much integrated. But at the same time, we also have to know that media comes with its own packaging of things that are not necessarily safe for children. So we educate children on that.
Okay.
And the teachers usually, anytime we give them a reference website, that's sent to the parent as well. And,
Okay.
we work with the children on that. Yeah.
And how do you handle the addictive tendency that children experience, as well as adults worldwide, to be
Yes.
addicted to the digital thing, as if they're merging their brain with this computer
Completely
thing?
merging into it.
Yeah.
Yes. Through dialogue. see, usually this kind of addiction comes in the teenage years.
Okay.
And, all their friends are on it. And so there are nurturing limits needed. We educate the parents about it. We educate children about it. And usually what happens is, you have to be careful not to resist it too much.
Right.
Really, parenting and teaching teaches us about the middle path.
Yes.
You have to they need access to it. So if you deny it, they're going to do something behind your back. So that doesn't work.
Right.
But it's really an education, and realizing that once in a while you have to develop a sense of humor. Occasionally, if your child is overdoing it on one day, you don't want to freak out.
Right.
You just have to but if that's consistently happening, then, we try to bring it up in a way that they see it for themselves. And that happens. Sometimes the kids, after a while, as long as the parent is not resisting it and they're there and they're present about what's happening, and, they're able to dialogue with their children. The most important part is you need to keep an open relationship with your child. If that is there, then there's a lot of space for moving through this.
Okay, but you are emphasizing a lot of awareness on the inner dimension so that the person stays alive, like even in arts, dance, expression, nature. I think in education, when like the parents pay attention to making the child awake in nature, like smell the air, sense the flowers, see the names, know the names. If we engage ourselves in life, in nature and emotions, that part of the brain gets trained. We just need to have teachers who engage that.
Yes. Thank you for, I tend to take that for granted, right?
No, I mean, I'm just...
Very beautiful and wide curriculum. So, in a way, okay, the simplest answer is there's not as much time on the media.
Right.
Because we really have a lot of theater and arts and nature-based work and music and dance. So the children have a lot of expression through that.
Okay.
And media is one aspect of it, absolutely.
Yes.
And like I said, a child has to be able to express themselves. And usually many times children go to media either looking for love or for a form of expression. So you need to be able to address that.
Right.
What are they getting?
What is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember my own childhood. My mom brought me up along the ways that you're describing. She took us out into nature. She had us breathe and feel and really awaken our senses to the subtleties. So she trained us in sense awareness. And I think I want to take that into the second segment, is what can you do as parents to educate your child outside of a school? Like if we don't have that school around,
absolutely.
What can we on a daily basis do with ourselves, our children, or our nieces and nephews, or whoever, grandchildren? So let me ask one final thing, and I think that is pertaining to the school, and it's very much an Indian question, is the word seva, which means service. And in India, it's embedded in the culture. It's a must. It's like a spiritual duty. But tell us about the beauty and importance of the service, of seva, why, and then how you deal with it in your work.
Yeah. So what we've taken is seva is an integral part of our community space. Our children also take part in age-appropriate ways. The older children tend to take part more. And the younger ones do seva inside their own classrooms.
Okay.
Seva, I believe, it really purifies the spirit. That's the simplest way in which I can describe it. It purifies our spirit and it brings the vibration of love inside. When I'm actually taking care of someone else, I'm filling myself with the vibration of love.
Right. Selflessness.
So it helps us just choose the vibration of selfless love inside. And we just keep, building on that. So, in a larger term, I mean, it's a oneness field, right? So what we give to others, in a way, it also fills you. So that's one aspect of it. And because many times people, the reason I'm saying that, there has been a tendency in India to be selfless without self-care.
Okay.
So it's important for us. We keep bringing up saying seva needs to be based on self-care. I need to care for myself in the sense of connecting with divine, with meditation, with different forms of filling my soul and or connecting with my higher self. And our seva comes from that space of offering help, of offering kindness.
Okay. So it's an outgrowth that naturally comes from really connecting to the source.
Yes,
and you know what? I think that is so important. You just pointed that out, because a lot of people say you have to do service. And if you do it with this should thing, if it doesn't come from within, what good is it? It's just, it's a pious act, and then you could go to heaven and say, well, I did all these good things. Well,
Yeah.
if it didn't come because you felt like the divine filled you so much you wanted to care, who cares in the end, right? So how do you do self-care?
So well, for me personally, a lot of I need silence, meditation, fire works very beautifully, breathing, awareness work, cleaning myself out. The
Okay.
purification is a very important part, both, of course, from the past, but also our daily interactions with people. We go into so many different things.
Yes.
I spend time on a daily basis to look at what is it that I'm carrying out of this interaction.
Okay.
Is there something that I'm holding on to that's not mine, or is there something that I've imposed on someone else? Being aware of our mental projections, all this is part of my daily self-care.
And when do you do that?
I do it early morning.
Like what time do you get up?
4.
You get
I
up
love
at 4.
The time. I get up at 4. 4 to about 6 is my most precious time because it's completely silent and I just love it. And 6:30, I have about a couple of hours, but that's me. Everyone, may not take that much time. I just love to sit in silence. I love to breathe at that time. I find that it really elevates my soul. And it's also the best. And what's happened with so many years of training, I've been doing this for a long time now. My body automatically brings up any unresolved issue early in the morning. So it's also the best time to clean up.
It does that for everybody. I bet you all the listeners notice that if something has been gotten stuck, you wake up probably in the middle of the night thinking about it.
Yes.
Right? And then we go over it instead of sitting up and saying, let me deal with it. And applying techniques that really work.
Yes. I've trained my body to bring it up at 4 a.m.
Yes.
So I know.
Awesome.
I sleep in the night and then at 4 or 4:30. And what happens is as your body, as you start feeling assured that you will actually do this, your body is quite kind and will regulate it.
Okay.
For you. So not bringing it up all over the time. But,
yes.
During that dedicated time, your body wisdom knows that, okay, I can bring it up at this time because I know that Jayashree is going to deal with it. So
I love that. That is so super potent. So you go to bed at what time?
I go to bed early.
Okay.
Around 9:30, 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's always what they say you should be doing. Go to bed at 10. The 2 hours of sleep before midnight are the best. Yeah. Are we always listening? We all have to find our own patterns, but a lot of people who are working people, I mean, I want to see you as an example here, busy with your own 2 teenage kids, a full-time dedication to your school, finding time for self-care is amazing. It's an amazing example, and that's what I wanted to point out. Thank you very, very, very much for this first part. Yes, I love everything you do, and I am so personally impressed with your work. I've been in touch with your school for a long time now, and actually coincidences have brought us together in an amazing way. So here we are, bringing to fruition some of the early meetings. Thank you, Jayashree.
Thank you.
I want to point out that you have a link up here that you can click to and get, and we have to be honest here, we're still in the process of formulating what that will be, but something will be here by the time you see this.
Absolutely.
To then help you connect to the school, to Jayashree, to find out, are you in the process of maybe writing these things down? Can people eventually?
Yes, absolutely. So we already have a lot of offerings, and they've been happening at our center in the areas of conscious parenting and how do we, things like balance, right? The question that you pointed out, we're all busy working. How do we actually bring consciousness in? Where's the time for this? So we have a lot of those that are already being documented. And over 7-8 years of work now in the area of education, we are just beginning the process of documenting. There's a lot that's happened just in the flow, which we need to now sit down and write. So it's going to take us a couple of years for that. But in the area of parenting, I think we have actually put down quite a few things.
So maybe what you can offer us is some tips on what to do with kids, and maybe some self-care things up here. And then we'll take it into the second interview as to what parents can do with their children at home to generate spiritual awareness, to train them. And then also, how do you entrain your children to look and do all these techniques themselves?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jayashree.
Thank you. It
I
was a pleasure.
yes, awesome. And I'll see you in the second segment in a minute.